going to talk a lot about this because you've got other experts in the room. I was just asked to mention it. I'll be super quick, super brief. This is not the whole presentation I give, and I know I'm squeezing 2 presentations into one, and I know I don't have time for questions by the time this is over, but I'm here all day, so all you gotta do is find me. Plus, I'll give you my email address at the end. You can email me if you have questions. Okay, long story short, there's a bad thing that happened in Georgia last year. Besides losing to Alabama in the SEC championship. I mean, Georgia. You were clearly the better team with your problem. Anyway, so there's a bad thing that's happening in Georgia. Starting August of last year, a new Hornet has arrived. I need to tell you very briefly about wasp biology so that the rest of these slides make sense and you can understand why this is potentially a problem. Okay. 2 things I want to teach you, biology and nomenclature. Nomenclature first. You are seeing italicized Vespa velutina. Vespa is a genus name, velutina is a species name. I go to Europe a lot. And when I'm in Europe, I've been listening to Europeans talk about this thing forever. So a few years ago, when the press broke about the murder hornet, remember that? Because that's what the press does. They take something that's normal and they make it crazy. So the murder hornet, I assumed, without reading the scientific name, that they were talking about this hornet. And I was quite not happy. But then I realized that the murder hornet was not this species. It was Vespa mandarinia. Names matter. So Vespa velutina is the yellow-legged hornet. Vespa mandarinia is the northern giant hornet. Unfortunately, these 2 things just got those common names. Prior to those common names, the one in Washington State was called the giant Asian hornet, and this one was called the Asian hornet. So if you look on the web for information about these 2, it's probably most of the time the giant Asian hornet or the Asian hornet. The giant Asian hornet being mandarinia, the Asian hornet being velutina. They have been renamed. Their new names are the northern giant hornet, mandarinia, and the yellow-legged hornet, velutina. Okay? So that's where you will find information now. But the internet will be mixed with those 2 sets of names. That's number 1. Number 2, hornets and wasps, social wasps, have similar biology. Wasps are omnivores, but they feed meat to their young. So adult wasps derive their energy from eating meat and eating sugar. That's why they show up at flowers. They're at flowers to collect nectar and loot, or at flowers to collect prey to take back to their young. They will sting that prey, chew up that prey, and fly it back to the nest and feed their babies. Yellow jackets do this. Bald-faced hornets do it. The wasp nest that's hanging under the eave of your house, those wasps do it. Wasps sting prey, chew up prey, and feed it to their babies. Well, the social wasps do. I don't have enough time to go into taxonomy. So social wasps do this. So they're out collecting meat. Your colony is a smorgasbord of meat. But it's also well defended. Yellow jackets, bald-faced hornets, paper wasps, etc., have a plethora of food available to them in spring and summer. Because there's tons of insects available out there everywhere. But when that insect population and availability starts to decrease, things like yellow jackets have to move to catching prey that's easier to collect. Which is why at the end of summer and early fall, they transition from feeding on regular insects to feeding on your bees. That's why yellow jacket problems are always a problem in late summer, early fall. Their natural prey is gone. Now they've got to go to what's available, your bees. Velutina does that really well. Fecal analyses, yes, there are people who do fecal analyses of insect stuff. Fecal analyses show that even in the regular season, these wasps will prey on honeybees. Obviously, it spikes in late summer and early fall, but even in spring, these wasps will show up at your colonies and feed on the bees. So why is this different than any other wasp? Well, it's different because it's here now. It was found in Georgia in August, confirmed to be present in the Savannah area, and the reason we know it's a problem is because it has escaped its endemic range of Southeast Asia and moved to Europe. And the European beekeepers have been struggling with this thing for a few years now. Really struggling. You can see it's in France, and Portugal, and Spain, it's in the UK. And where it is occurring, bee colonies are starting to suffer. So what happens? Let's help you identify it first. This is the Vespa velutina, the yellow-legged hornet. Any guess why I got its common name? It's tricky though, because we have a thing that lives in the southeastern U.S. that also has yellow legs. And of course, it's a wasp. And of course, it otherwise looks a lot like this thing. All right? So this is big and scary. Unfortunately, it's not life-size. There's some really good documents. There's some really good documents about this. Here we go. Look at me before you look at it. I need to talk to you. Insect ID is hard even for entomologists. I'm a honeybee guy. I can't identify wasps flying unless it's really obvious. You can look at this chart and see Vespa mandarinia. That's the northern giant hornet. That's the murder hornet. It's only in Washington, and they haven't seen it there in a year and a half. It's believed to have been eradicated, but they're a little tentative of saying that because you just don't ever really know it. So that's not even something we likely even have in the United States. And even when we did, it wasn't here. This is the European hornet. That's unfortunate because we already had an invasive hornet here in the southeastern U.S. It's Vespa, the same genus, Crabro, a different species. The reason you've not heard about it or talked about it is because it's not really a problem for honeybees. It's out there, but not really a problem for honeybees. This one is the one that gives me headaches. This is a cicada killer. The reason it gives me headaches is what color are its legs? Yellow. Is it a big wasp?
Yes.
Yeah, it hunts cicadas. Do you know what that means? Those big things that come out in summer and crawl out of their shell and leave their shell on your trees and your houses and then go and make that heinous noise? You've seen the big ones? There's a wasp that specializes in hunting those things. They sting the cicada, pull them into the ground paralyzed, lay an egg on that cicada, and their young develop underground eating that still alive but paralyzed cicada. That wasp is big, it's got yellow legs, and all of you are going to think it's a yellow-legged hornet. That's why you have entomologists. You snap a picture, you send it to your Department of Agriculture, you send it to your UGA program, and they tell you if it's a problem or not. All right? So all of these things are not this thing, but this thing is the thing we're worried about. Oh, and then throw on top of that the fact that we have yellow jackets. Would you say to yourself, well, they look very different. They're yellow, but yellow jacket queens look similar enough to, and are sized enough to where you can mistake them for the yellow hornet. Okay? So this is the problem. I've got to be quick because I've got 3.5 minutes left. I'm going to tell you. You want to do my time, don't you? I'm going to pretend not to look. I've only got 5 minutes left. I'm very functional.
You're more on top tonight.
All right, so the other thing about the biology you need to be aware of is these nests don't overwinter like most wasps, right? So what they do is at the end of the production season, they will start sending out queens and drones to mate. The queens do not overwinter in the nest. There is no nest. That dies. All their colony dies. The queen then goes overwinters in the rotten logs or in the ground or something like that. Well, Vespa velutina does as well. When spring comes around, those queens activate or animate and then go and build nests and start that process all over again. So throughout winter, you can't know if you got them all because there could be some queens that overwintered that will establish nests next spring. Yellow jackets do that. Bald-faced hornets do that. A lot of the wasps that we keep do that. In fact, I own a little bit of property in Warren County, and I was on it digging through some rotten logs over Christmas, and I found a yellow jacket queen that was about that size. So why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this because if it establishes and if it spreads, it will be a problem for you. In fact, when I heard that it was in Georgia, the first thing I went was, crap, I'm going to retire there someday, and I don't want my bees to be eaten by these stupid things. So I hope you get this problem under control before I retire, because I want to go back to a hornet-free state. Anyway, why is this a problem? So the Georgia Department of Ag has been working to try to find and eradicate nests. That's our goal. You need to talk with them. They're here. The University of Georgia also is very knowledgeable on this topic. I am not your local expert. You don't need to come to me. You need to go to the University of Georgia, Georgia Department of Ag. They're here. But it's a problem because they can completely decimate colonies. I'll end with a couple of thoughts. Number one, how they hunt your bees is a process called hawking. Imagine this is your colony. The hornets don't come in and pick off bees. They come and hover in front of the nest and intercept your bees coming into the nest. They'll decapitate them, chew them up, take them back, and feed them to their young. So what you get is you get bees that are essentially paralyzed. They're unwilling to leave the nest. You get all of these hawking hornets, and then you start having significant problems. If you watch talks in Europe, you'll actually see beekeepers, hobbyist beekeepers, knocking them down with tennis rackets, trying to control them, because there's currently no good control. So they are a problem. You need to be aware of them, especially if you live in the Savannah area. If you see that hawking behavior, any questions, comments, queries, conundrums, or quandaries, contact the Georgia Department of Ag or the University of Georgia. I've put up a couple of QR codes for you. One is for your Georgia Department of Ag. One is a fact sheet of our Department of Ag. I'll get out of the way and let you take a picture of this quickly, because I've got to finish. I've got 30 seconds. The next one is made by the respective universities. So that's the University of Georgia. That's our fact sheet at the University of Florida. You need to contact your local representatives if you think you have it. Look for the behavior, be aware of it, know it's a problem. And then I will end with this slide, because I know I gave you two presentations in one and that we have no time for Q&A. If you need to reach me,